Dennis, how long have I known you?
Dennis and I went to reform school together.
Isn't that amazing? And they both got their tickets. So you don't have to, you can go to reform school and get your tickets.
1962.
62?
Yeah.
Okay. Holy smokes. Yeah, I came to Reading and met these guys when I first came to Reading in 62. Well, let me start from the beginning here. I have so many friends here. Thank you for showing up. I'm amazed. I was surprised to see so many long-term friends. My name is Bud. It's like the beer, like Bud Light. And I'm happy to be here, but I'm going to be truthful. I'm happy to be anywhere. I am. I'm happy to be anywhere. I get up in the morning and my wife says, Bud, you're too dumb to be depressed. And I said, well, there's nothing to be depressed about. Look, I get a chance to drive down to Sacramento in the beautiful traffic. I get a chance to meet all these wonderful people and to show off my son's antenna. It is my son's antenna now. It wasn't when we started. We went into partnership after Chris, my son, who is now 50, got caught in the .com thing, where a lot of people lost a lot of money, and he was working for a 150-year-old company, and the company said, you know what, we're not going to go into this .com thing. We're going to let everybody go. So his boss and his boss above him, when everybody was gone. You guys know the drill. That was in 2000 or so. What was the actual time on that? 2002, when that happened?
Yeah, 2002.
2002. You're pretty sure of that. Okay, so it must have affected him somehow. Well, it affected us. What happened was, I retired from State Farm. I loved the job. I loved doing it every day. It was so much fun. I couldn't stand it. The only other job I liked better was I was a DJ. And I did that for a long time. I did that from 1956 when I was in high school. I'm 76. 1950, let's see, 56, I was in high school. So I did that all the way through high school. And I had a rock show, the only rock show within 100 miles of where I was at the time, a little place called Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, home of the groundhog. Wow. And I worked for a company back there, a station, and they gave me free rein for an hour and a half. And man, to be in high school and to be able to do that, it was a big high school, it was really fun, I have to say that. So, but I just couldn't get up, and I couldn't go to bed, go to sleep, because I was so excited about getting up and going to work in the morning, which is a pretty good way to run your life. Well, I did that for a long time, and then came out to California in 1962. These guys were out there then, came to Redding, California, never left Redding. Love it up there. It's hot, just like it is here, but I like the mountains nearby, I like everything about it, so Patty and I just stayed there. My wife of 53 years puts up with me every day. She doesn't like the hobby, she tolerates the hobby. You know, that's okay with me. There's nobody in my shack. I don't have to worry about that ever, because she says, it's just, Bud, it's just too much. It is. It's so much fun. I can't stand it. Anyway, give you an idea on this. The whole deal about the Buddipole is, I retired from State Farm in '98, and I immediately started playing around with antennas, because I always liked antennas. And I always thought that the product called CPVC, which is a plastic pipe like PVC, except that it's smaller in diameter. And I chose it to build my first antenna, which ended up being the Buddipole. But because there was a product that Radio Shack had, and it's their 72-inch tiny little featherweight whips, and they had a hole at the end down here. And I thought, you know what? Let's see. That thing is 6 feet long. And I was in Pennsylvania visiting my brother at the time and had a radio, DS50, but I didn't have an antenna. So I thought, well, how can I get some PVC? And so I did, and some PVC. And what I'll do is make a dipole out of it. So I said, okay, how do we do this? Here's one side of the dipole, here's the other side of the dipole, but gee, that's pretty short, right? That's only 12 feet long. So I just added wire and CPVC here to make it a little longer, and then it was an antenna for 10 meters, 8 feet on either side, right? So I've got a 10 meters. So I thought, oh, let's see, why don't we just put a little more PVC on there, and we'll get to to 15. How about 15? It's really hot at the time. I said, hey, let's do that. So I did that and got to 15 meters, and then I started saying, you know, 17's a great band, 20's a great band. I'll just make some homebrew coils out of some wire and put them about half the way out the antenna, and just keep adjusting until I can get a match and see if it'll work on 15. Well, it worked on 15. First contact of my TS-50 on my back with a little gel cell battery was with a very nice lady in Brazil. And I was in Pennsylvania at the time. I said, you're kidding me. She says, no. And she said, you sound really good. How high is that dipole? And I said, well, it's about 5 feet above my head. It was on a painter's pole. So I kept chipping at this and chipping at it. And I thought, how could I make it even better? And I went home from Pennsylvania, went back there, and then started building these. And then I got so many people who said, look, why don't you just put it on the internet and save yourself, because I was photocopying things and sending plans to these guys, a one-page sheet. And they said, well, why don't you just do that? So I put it on the internet, and about the time the .com hit about 2002 or so, Chris said, hey, you're getting thousands of hits on the internet to build this, and you can't keep doing this. I said, well, I'm not going to run a business. I'm retired. And he said, let's start a business. We'll be partners. I said, okay. So that worked really well. It cost a lot of money to start a business when you have a partner who doesn't have any money, and you're the guy there, you think, oh, someday this is going to make me a lot of money. Well, it didn't quite work that way. When we got to the point where we incorporated, I said, Chris, I don't want to do it anymore. I just really rather play radio. And so I just gave it to him, gave him the company. So it worked out really well for him. He's up in Portland, Oregon. He manufactures this here. And this is a portable antenna, and it is meant to be portable. It can be put up outside. It can be put out, and it'll withstand the wind. It'll withstand a lot of things. But you have certain things on portable antennas that can break. Wind can do it. This particular tripod that we had manufactured is one of many in a series of tripods, but it remains basically the same. It is an antenna, or it's a tripod with a mast on it that gets this antenna about 10 feet above the ground. The legs of this tripod expand, so when it's on the ground, it in fact is 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet, which makes it nice and sturdy. But if you get against the wind, and you get an antenna up there that weighs a kilogram, which it does, and it's up in the air 10 feet, it's going to blow over. So you got to do something about that. So we have a lot of ways to fix that. One of the ways is a very nice guying kit, which you can use for this antenna. Another thing is to take a cement block, which I do at my own house, take a bungee cord and put it around the cement block, put it around there, and up at 10 feet, it's not going anywhere. It works out really well that way. I also, to keep this mast up in the air, and you got to get the antenna dipole up in the air, you got to get it up, hopefully, you know, like 16 or 18 feet. So there's an option of a long mast that's much longer than this one, and it gets up in the air a little over 18 feet, and that's pretty much as much as we can go right now. I say right now, because he's always changing things up at the shop. The antenna itself is an off-center fed dipole. And I did that because I would like to have somebody take this antenna, take it out into the boondocks, and not have to take an antenna tuner with them, or not have to take a tuner in the radio, because it's a little heavier if you take a tuner in the radio. So I decided, well, we'll go ahead and make it off-center fed, and then I'll provide the directions for putting it on these various bands. It's expanded a lot from there, but my friends just were here. Where's Paul? Paul's sitting back there, and Doug. It's Doug, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Doug. And I just had them assemble this by just showing them what the parts were, and they had this. It didn't take you long, did it, Paul?
No, I think we were up there for 10 minutes.
10 minutes or so. But now he wanted to know the concept before we started, because it's tougher to be able to just think in your mind how you do this. So I had to put all the components together and then build a dipole and then build this vertical that I have up now. since the vertical is up now, I might as well show you how this vertical works. It is a T on a thing called a Versa-T. I designed this so that I could have on each side of this the way the antenna is fed is I use many banana plugs, and those were suggested by a friend of mine, Bonnie Crystal, way back in 2000. And she said, why don't you use many banana plugs and then put a choke mallet on it and just forget about any fancy ways to feed this antenna. So with the off-center fed idea, that's what we decided to do. So these mini banana plugs go into either one of three places, openings. One at either side makes a dipole. One at the top with something on the side here to make a radial so that you have a short wave radial. And Carol will show you, she has some pictures of what she has done in Puerto Rico and how she has set it up in a balcony. So she set her vertical up essentially in the same way as I have set this one up here. And what we do is take this, and everybody knows that a quarter wave is really easy to set up. Well, in this case, I just take, and if it's 20 meters, I just take 16 feet of wire. And it's really, really sophisticated. That's 5, and that's 10, and that's 15. Whoops, that's about 16 right there, right? So we made these kite line winders up and had them manufactured, and I just take that, and I take it over here, and keep it off the ground by about 2 feet, so it doesn't touch the ground. And this is a demo, so it's not going to be exactly right here. But then I've got to go up there, and I've got to somehow tap that coil so that the quarter wave up here isn't going to be 16 feet for 20 meters because these components won't make it that high. So I thought, well, what am I going to do about that? So the best thing I thought to do is to take the dipole arm, which normally is on one side of the antenna here, take this dipole arm and take it off here. Okay, and then take this coil, and on a mobile, I would never put the coil right there on top where I'm feeding this antenna. But because we have an elevated feed point and an elevated radial, it doesn't make a hill of beans difference if it's here or if it's up there. And if you want to put it up there, you can, but how are you going to reach it to tune? So now, the next thing is to take this component I have and put it up there and make the longest whip I can. Well, wait a minute, I have two dipole arms, the dipole, right? So they're vertical. I just put these together, and everything is interchangeable. 3 to 24 threads on all the components, except the 1/2-inch pipe thread, which is at the bottom of this Versa-T, because I needed something that was much heavier for supporting that T. So now I have 2 of these, right? And I'm up here, and can't go and do it wrong because threads have to match here. So, before I put that on, wait a minute, that's not long enough. What do? Let's put a whip on that. So we'll take one of these whips. This one here just came off that dipole. Take that whip. Same antenna, just a different configuration. Whoop, can't do that. It's going to be too high in it. It sure is. Because if you were outside, I could show you that this would go on top of that, and this would go on top of this, and you have an idea that now you have a vertical that's going to be pretty competitive on 20 meters because it no longer is 6 feet long. It now is 2, 4, and this is a 9-foot whip I happen to have here. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Gee, I don't even need a coil. If it's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's a quarter wave on 17 meters. So all I need is a little bit of coil here. So I just tap that coil, and I go up and put my radio on this and the bottom of this coax, take this little mini banana plug here, and go like this all at once. It's really, really, really noisy right there, and there's more signal, so I just take one of these little coil clips, go up there and put it on where it was the noisiest, and now I'm very close to resonance on 20 meters. So now, to do the final adjustment, all I have to do is change the number of coil turns on that little kite line winder. So you have a perfect match, really, for a quarter wave vertical, and you do it in just a matter of a couple of minutes. So that's the thing that I think is a really good thing about it. You can do so many different things. It's like Tinker Toys, and it's like Tinker Toys for hams. And if you like to play with antennas, it's a really good thing to do. I've got an experimental group that I have, a person in Switzerland and one in San Diego, and I've got an engineer in Portland, and a lot of us, and we sit there and think of new ways to do this. And so we have made Buddipole boxins, we have made Buddipole delta loops, and it's always fun to come up with something that's a little different. We don't publish those, but it's a matter of, if you want to try something, you just start talking about it. We have a users group, and I'm not sure how many are on there. I should have looked, but there are 5,000 or 6,000 people in the users group on one of the biggest Yahoo groups going. It's under Yahoo groups under Buddipole, and you're certainly welcome to join. We'd love to have you. It's above the Buddipole users group above. So that's basically how this antenna works. The coax is 25 feet of mil-spec coax. It has a BNC connector at this end, and I have a PL259, so you can go into your radio immediately. When we sell this with, Chris sells this with a, for example, an 18-foot mast, then it comes with 50 feet of coax instead of 25, and it also comes with a guide kit every time, because you need that guide kit. If that antenna is up in the air 18 feet, about 15 feet above the ground, you need to put these guys out and make sure that it's not going to topple over. Basically, that's the idea. Oh, wait a minute. You can make a Yagi out of this, couldn't you? Well, sure. No reason you can't make a Yagi. So we take this thing, and I've got an adapter here. Oh, let me do it. I'll show you how to make a Yagi with PVC, and it's the same concept. It's just that it's cuter this way. Remember, we started out with this CPVC and these little 6-foot whips. Well, now, if I pull this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's say that was 4.5 here, and then this one was 1, 2, 3, 4. What I want to do is get 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and about half. Now, if I put a piece of coax on here, it's a little BNC to coax connector, where would that resonate? Which band? 6 meters. Whoo! Hot dog, you're on 6 meters that quickly. You can do the same thing with this, of course, but man, this thing only weighs a couple of ounces. These things are 2.2 ounces each. So there you go. Just put that on a painter's pole, and you've got a dipole up in the air for 6. But wait, there's more. Meaning, if you take this same PVC, CPVC, and you make a boom out of it, I love this. Then, all I have to do is go like this, and then put another leg on here. I just painted this PVC black because I wanted to. And then I have the reflector here. Wow, you know what? I've got 4.5 foot on this side, perfect match on 50.125 megahertz in the sideband portion. Pull these out about 5.5, and you have a Yagi. And it's effective. I've worked from my tricycle. I've worked Japan. One time now, I admit that. One time in CW, and the guy sent me a video with a recording of his S meter, and it was not moving the S meter, but it was with a homebrew 6 meter 2-element Yagi that was from the West Coast out to Japan on 6, which is not very easy to do. So anyway, that's how you do that. Now, on my tricycle, I've got to tell you about my tricycle. I love my tricycle. I had a video of it, but I didn't get a chance. It took me a little longer to get started here, so I didn't get a chance to take a look at the files.
I think we found it here.
You think you found that particular one?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'm scared what's on there. My young little lab might be on there. Okay, let's see. Go ahead and start it now. If this comes up, it'll show you what my recumbent tricycle. Don't laugh about this tricycle.
There.
There should be audio too.
Audio?
Turn the audio on. Oh, that little guy there. That'll do it. Speaker.
Well, who knows?
Oh,
Playing really slow. Is that the way it's supposed
yeah,
to be?
no, it's not supposed to play that slow.
Okay, that's,
Well, I can describe my trike to you. If you can get it like even a still of the thing. So, yeah, that first still is fine. We can get that. As you try to play it again.
problem with sound design. Sounds so.
Yeah, I don't worry about sound. It's okay. It's just me talking. That's not a big thing. Okay, let me tell you about the trike. Then we won't have to show it if you can't find it on here. It is a recumbent tricycle from Montana. It's called a Lightfoot cycle. It's got 2 wheels in back and 1 in front. Now, I'm an old guy, I'm 76, right? I wanted something comfortable, so it's got a big seat on it, and it's so comfortable to sit on. 29 gears forward, and Shimano brakes, so it stops really quickly. I've got it lit up like a Christmas tree when I'm going down the road. I live in an area where the streets are 60 feet wide and nobody parks on them, so it's really kind of nice. But you have to watch it because I sometimes forget. I've got this same mast on there. It's an 18-footer, and I keep it right above my head, right? And I go somewhere to a park, and then I start operating from the park. And what's cool about it is that people just nod their heads and kind of look and say, okay, there he is again. And my wife says, the only thing my wife has always said is, you can't take the 2-element Delta Loop quad for 6 and ride down the road with it. Now, why she wouldn't want me to do that, I don't know. But I used the same concepts of making these Yankees. I did the same thing, but I used some products that we have at Buddipole, and I made a V on this side and a V on that side, and then I put wire across the top. And so it's got a Delta loop here and a reflector loop here. That thing is a killer. Do you think it's going to work?
No, I can't get it to work, but it's showing
Okay.
some stills.
Okay, but you have an idea of what the trike is like. I'll give you a couple of examples how it works. It does work. Oh, I cheated. I got to the point where I wasn't busting pilots into Europe. So I bought an Ameritron ALS 500 amplifier. Nice amp. And a friend of mine gave me a dog trailer, and so I immediately put it on the back of my trike, and then I put a 55 amp hour battery on there. And the ALS 500 sits right in front of it, and did everything remote control. So that when I sit there and nobody's coming back to me from Europe, and I'm calling, and I'm on the West Coast, I'm looking for those Europeans. They haven't done it, I'll tell you, in the last 6 months it's been terrible. But anyway, when I sit down there and I put that little lamp on, and man, it makes a lot of difference. It's a huge difference. And enough that it's, well, give me an example. I was on 15 meters, and I was just playing around, having a good time, working JAs. From the West Coast, you can work JAs easily. Working these JAs. And I must have had, 30 or 40 JAs in a row. And I'm G10 shop, which is bicycle mobile in Japanese. Bicycle mobile. So I'm saying, okay, G10 shop, stand by, JA, stand by, see if there's anybody at all outside, somebody in Asia outside of JA. So they all, Japanese, whoop, 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 stand by. They did. How about Borneo? And I said, somebody in the East Coast, right? And he says, no, I'm down in Borneo, can't get through your JA pilot. And I said, okay. So we chatted, and he had a tricycle, a different kind of tricycle than I have, and we chatted for a long time. And then I said, thank you to him, and I said, anybody else out? 2 Malaysian stations with huge stations called me at the same time. They didn't know each other. One on one side of Malaysia, one on the other side of Malaysia, and I'm on my tricycle sitting here, right? And I said, you guys don't even know each other? And they said, well, no, I've heard of that club station. And the other guy said, yeah, I've heard of his station, but I don't know each other. I said, well, I want you to meet him. And that is just so cool to do that. Then we stood by, and I said, anybody else outside of JAs? And I could hear the JAs. I was just sitting there saying, I don't even work for a guy. So I said, anybody else? The VKs and ZL started, and it just roared. It was just great. Never had an afternoon that good on the trike. I've had some Europeans that have been that good on the trike, but I've never had anything down under into Asia that good. Now that's just about a year and a half ago. The conditions have gone down dramatically since then. On a regular basis, even 6 months ago, I had a schedule every day on 17 meters on a specific frequency. I'm on there at 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. and I talk to guys all over the place. And I usually sit there, not with my trike now because band conditions haven't been good, but with my Alpha 87A and quad, and the quad's pointed usually east. And like this morning, we had a dozen stations come in to say hello. But occasionally a guy from Europe calls in, and then I see if all these guys with little, smaller antennas can work the guy in Europe. That's kind of a game we play. I like to do that. So I'm on the air every day, 18-157.5. Hard to hear from the West Coast, but the East Coast guys hear me pretty well. And it's 1800 UTC. It's a fun schedule. I like it. A lot of good guys on there. Speaking of good guys, we do something called Buddies in the Caribbean. And there have been over 50 of us now. I started that a long time ago. We went to Montserrat. Yes, a question?
Yeah, but you're very good on CW. Do you want this?
Yeah, I have a knee key. I have Doug Hendricks has AME, the AME products. And I was in Dayton one time. I don't know if you know Doug. He's a good machinist, I'll tell you. And I was at Dayton, and I went to vendors night. And I said, hey, Doug, I understand that you have some tough keys. He says, oh, yeah. And I said, how about that key right there? And I said, what I want is put it on my knee, because I'm a fast CW operator. I said, I just want to have paddles for my knee. And he says, okay. So I picked it up and looked at it, and he said, well, try it out and see. And I said, I really don't have any way to do that except plug it in here. And he says, no, I mean, and he threw that thing and it skidded all the way across the floor, under people's feet and everything like that. And I picked it up, took him over, plugged it in, and started sending CW. I said, okay, I'll buy it. He said, you didn't ask how much it cost. I said, give me a break, man. You have a product that works like that, and you knew it was going to work like that. I'll just take that bugger right now. That particular key is down in the Barbados, because I went down there and showed a guy it, and he said, Bud, sorry to say it, you're not going to be able to leave the island without leaving me that key. Terrible. That guy just had his 80th birthday party, and there were 80 people there. Hey, that's something. This is really funny. We went to Barbados, one of many. I've been there now almost 20 times in the last 10 years down in the Caribbean. Went to Barbados, and one of the guys who owns a Buddipole, one of Chris's first customers, I knew him by his whole name, which is unusual because you know people by their call signs. Well, anyway, Pat was down there, and he said, what time are you coming in? When's your plane coming in? I told him, and he said, well, he said, I'm going to come down and meet you at the airport. And I said, okay. So here there are, we came in, and there are 8 of us, right? There's 16 Barbados hands standing there to greet us and say hello. We went back to the villa. We rent really nice villas. We split the cost. Buddipole doesn't pay for any of it. We just split the cost between 8 guys, right? But I always have takers. Anyway, we got back to the villa, and the rum started flowing, and I do not remember setting up an antenna that night. And when we go down there, we always set up antennas the first night wherever we go. Because, you know, you can get on 40 meters, and then going to St. Lucia for the 8th time very shortly here in December, and you can go in there, and there's a long ride from the airport up to this villa we have, which is perched on a 300-foot cliff. It's the same villa we stay at all the time. And we go in there, and while the guys are, you know, getting used to where to sleep and all that stuff, I've done that so many times, I just start setting antennas up so that somebody can get on the air, usually a hot CW operator, and get into Europe immediately in the next half hour or something like that. So I usually do that. It's a great thing to do. Well, didn't happen in Barbados, let me tell you. The rum was flowing, and the next day we were slow getting up, and everybody was saying, was that a party or was that a party? It was a hoot. We've been to some very poor places down there. Dominica, Grenada, very poor. Nice people. We stay at good places, if you can find a good place down in some of those countries. But it's nice to pump some money into the economy. And my Buddies in the Caribbean is open to anybody. I'm full for this year. I have a really good crew coming up for this year. As a matter of fact, the retiring Chief Operating Officer from ARRL is going with us. Howard, right? Yeah, he's going with us. He's wanted to go, and he just retired. And so he said, Bud, this is my time. So I said, okay. So I've got my 8 operators for that in December. Next year, I have an opening for like 2 guys. I have a guy from Louisiana call me on my schedule this morning and say, hey, save me a place there. And I said, okay, let's talk about it. As I say, we don't make any money, Buddipole doesn't, but it's darn good advertising. You get down there, and somebody says, what are you using? And you say, well, I'm using a Buddipole on the beach. I'm using a dipole on top of the roof down here at a villa in the Caribbean. So eventually it gets back there. We never talk about the system on the air unless somebody asks a question about it, so we don't want it to be commercialized at all. This is way more of a commercial than I would have expected to do, but when the guys asked me to do a demo here, I thought I might as well show you the whole thing, so I decided to do that tonight. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm not quite done. Any questions? No?
Yeah,
Yeah, question.
the ballon that you have, or the
Yeah.
choke that you have on there now,
Yes.
that looks like a new choke that's out, the other one.
Yeah, you must have had an antenna before.
Yeah,
Do you know the one that had you're the one that had a couple of beads on the
yeah,
cards?
with the choke in the,
Yeah, with the choke in there, yeah. I probably made that. I
Yeah.
did so many of those for nothing for that kid that I finally said, no way, man, you make a mold. As a matter of fact, let me tell you how many of these we made, the same kind you had. So many of them that my friend, who is now 90, just quit 2 years ago making those ballots when we started bringing these newer ones out. And he has himself a 7600, which he got from working for Chris on a bit. So that's kind of fun. Chris hires a lot of people to do stuff, and this came from a mold in Hillsboro, Oregon, and it's just an add-on, a different.
right, is that rated at 100 or 200?
100 watts. Yeah, 100 watts.
Now,
You know what? I've taken the alpha and
Yeah, that's what I
run
was
it.
gonna ask.
I've run it really high. What happens is you can feel the beads.
Okay.
That's the thing. The coils, you know, one time I ran 750 watts in the alpha on these coils here. And they're very nice. And I thought, oh, it's going to be awful. Well, they really weren't that warm. I was on CW. But I noticed that the settings that we give people, the settings were off by about 2 inches. So it
Right.
changed something in the dielectric, probably in the middle of this. coil.
Sure, probably dropped the resistance and the
Yeah,
things
changed
changed
it.
because of it. Yeah.
Manufacture is an interesting thing. Well, we've been to China, and the first time we ever went to, not to China, to Japan. The first time we went to Japan, the J.A. Hanfair. By the way, it's nothing like it used to be. The J.A. Hanfair, the Dayton, which is now going to be, you know, it's changed to Xenia, Ohio. Did you guys hear? You heard it? Yeah, Xenia, Ohio is going to be a different thing in Dayton this year. But Dayton's the biggest white by far, bigger than Germany, bigger than anybody. Anyway, went over there, and JAs were wonderful. They were great to us. We had a good time, went to Mount Fuji and stayed at a friend's place up there, and it was just so good. But 2 Chinese guys came in, businessmen, and they each bought a total deluxe package. And I said to Chris, well, there it goes, dude, it's gone to China. So they never have really done anything with it. A lot of people have
They're coming
come up
out of
with
China.
exact duplicates. Pardon?
They've got them out of China,
Oh, yeah.
and they've got, it's actually, instead of the clamp on for the vertical, what they
Yeah.
did is they built in a spike at the bottom.
Yeah,
Have you seen that one?
yeah.
So. it's-
Yeah,
it
there are a
doesn't
lot of
hold-
different
It doesn't
things.
hold up to the Buddipole.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is a really nice antenna, and what this is half a Buddipole with this radial on it. And Carol uses it, and she uses it down there at her place in Puerto Rico, and she has a good setup of it. And so I wanted her to show that to you. There's one more thing, though, I was thinking about demonstrating on this. Well, let me think on it. Do you have time to go through yours?
Oh, yeah, we'll do that
Okay.
real quick.
And then we'll take any other questions you have here. I hate to run out early, but I got up about 6 o'clock. I've got a dog that's a walkaholic, a 100-pound dog that is
Is
walkaholic.
that your key?
That's my key. That's my knee key. Yeah, so it's seamless. It's
That's
beautiful.
an awesome key. And,
Yeah.
and
But anyway, I take my dog for a walk every morning, so I got up this morning at 5, took my dog for a walk, and then I've been messing around with antennas all since, and there's a 3-hour drive here. So the thing is, I don't want to go to sleep on the way back home, so I'll keep this kind of short. So Joe's going to give me a hand here.
One of the things that.
Yes.
I didn't call Chris on it yet. I'm doing some.
Yeah. You know somebody's a customer when they call my son Chris. So you know he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah, one of the things that you might bring to him as a suggestion, since he
Yeah.
uses like on the 80-meter coil and he
Yes.
sweeps it.
We have an accessory 80-meter coil, which I didn't show you.
Yeah,
Okay.
when you, even with the single coil, if you're
Yeah.
doing higher frequency and you sweep it with the banana plug,
Right.
one of the modifications that I made, and I think you could probably add it into the repertoire of stuff that you have.
Yeah.
An eyelet cable that goes out just like the banana, but instead have a test probe clip-on.
Sure.
So what I do is I just push it,
Yeah, push
sweep
it to
it down,
the
and
test
then clip it.
Yeah,
and let go.
as a matter of fact, a guy has an antenna out that does exactly that right now, a guy in Canada.
Yeah.
Does a good job of that. He uses the Buddipole whips because he doesn't want to manufacture that many whips. But I always like that. You know those little test things, you go and you push it in like that?
Yeah.
And
it works really well.
Yeah, it works
makes
really
it
well.
Much faster, and then of course you don't have to.
Another thing that works really well, that he's never manufactured it, and I love it. It's a, and if you have a 3D printer, he's made several of them with 3D printer. It fits right on here. All it is a round tube, and it just fits on here, and it slides up and down. And it's a nice
right.
contact.
Yeah.
So instead of that, if you like, I'll send you one of those. You can try that.
Absolutely.
Okay, just give me a card or something afterwards. Anybody who wants to experiment, man, let me know because I'll support you.
It almost works like an AM tuning coil, an inductor
Yeah.
for an AM coil.
Yeah, it's a great way to go. Just makes contact. Okay, my lady, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, another question from
One
Paul.
question.
Yeah. Yes.
The flip that you put on the coil, the
Yes.
little J hook on it, can you put the multiples of those on the same coil?
Well, it just so happens that
And then
this
just
lady here
switch
has
the
multiples
cables
on there already.
without degrading performance?
And it doesn't degrade performance because each one of those clips holds on to that individual turn. She's got 3 on this one. I don't do that right, because I do something a little different, which is what we were talking about, the sliding coil now, which I
Yeah.
have to get you one now to try. It's really fun, man. You get that thing on there and you just go like that and you check your
You have
radio.
it for the large and the small.
What's that?
You made some up for large and small.
No, not for the large one because you know that large coil is a hex coil.
Why now?
It'd be much harder to do that.
Yeah,
You
I
could
was
do
just
that on
thinking
a
that.
3D printer. You could do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but are you good at 3D printers?
I don't have one in my shop.
Okay, well, somebody who starts experimenting, you better get a hold of me because that's what I do.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Rachel.
Okay, no, that's fine. Certainly, I don't want to hold you up because I know he's got a long ride and going to drive back to Reading tonight. Thank you so much for making the trip down here. It takes 3 hours. Anyway, I'm going to give you a sneak preview of my program that I'm going to give in November, which is talking about my operation in Puerto Rico, but specifically talking about the Buddistick here. The Buddistick is one half of a Buddipole, and the reason I was considering using a Buddipole, but it wasn't going to work in my situation because I'm operating off of a balcony on a side of a condo. And in order to get the Buddipole to operate efficiently, it's got to be a good 10, 18, 20 feet away from the reflecting surface. That's why you need to use, a tripod to get it up that high when using it off the ground. Now, when you're off the side of a building, putting an antenna like that out 20 feet is a bit of a problem, especially if you want to change bands. You're going to have to pull the whole thing back in, change the clips, on your coils and then put it back out again. And that was going to be a hassle. So I decided to go with the Buddistick. I could have done this last year. I didn't do it last year because I didn't realize how easy it was going to be. What I did last year was I used one of the magnetic loop antennas. And there was a big sacrifice in efficiency in doing that compared to the Buddistick, and that's what I learned. I got the Buddistick, and I found out that you can get this mount. It's called a JAWS mount that can just clamp onto any pole because the railing on my balcony over there is a round steel pipe. And I said, okay, let me go ahead and do this. I can clamp it on there, and then lo and behold, I found out this thing has a 90-degree swivel. I can swivel the whole thing down so that I can bring the coil within my reach and change the taps and put it right back out, and I'm out on another band. So I found out by trial and error which were the taps that worked for 40 meters, 30, 20, 50, and 17 meters. And I just left these extra clips back on there. So whenever I want to change band, all I do is have to pull out the little mini banana plug here and just put it into a different tap. It was amazingly easy. And the broadness of this antenna allows you to operate over the entire band. It's not like the magnetic loop. If you move like 15 or 20 kcs, you've got to go out there and turn that capacitor in, or else you're going to have a very high SWR.
Are you loading the pole, or are you running the radio off of that?
Well, This is something I talked with Bud about before I got this antenna. If I'm going to run this thing on 40 meters, do I have to run out a 33-foot piece of wire as a counterpoise and drop it in front of all of the neighbors, down
Never noticed it.
down the hall? And I said, I'm going to try to do without this because that entire railing is steel. And so it works like the body of a car. It's a counterpoise. And I was really lucky because I even checked the resistance. The DC resistance of that balcony rail was very close to 0 ohms to the ground that I was having on the electric outlet side. My gosh, it looks like the entire side of this building is practically 0 ohms. So that's a tremendously great reflector. So I didn't use the wire at all. I just operated off that, and I was able to get really excellent SWRs. I want to go ahead and just go through some of these pictures. You can see here the Buddistick. It's attached to the pole. I'm up on the 8th floor, so I'm up a good height. Maybe about 80 or 90 feet above ground, which it's more than half of a wavelength at 40 meters. So. And I have the view of the ocean over there. So it was an excellent position. Now this is that JAWS mount you can see. It's got a swivel on it. So I was able actually to swivel it. There's another picture of the antenna on the JAWS mount. And this is from the outside. You can see here's the Buddistick, and then here's my magnetic loop antenna alongside of it. I was doing some comparisons between the two antennas. And it's not very obtrusive. It's not very noticeable over there. It worked quite fine. There's another view of the Buddistick. And there's, when I was on the west side of the building, I had a really good view of the Atlantic Ocean. That direction we're looking at straight in front of us is directly to North America. And I was told I've got a saltwater amplifier here. And sure enough. There's another view from, again, you can see the entire railing over there is steel. It's not the best conductor, but it worked perfectly fine, and it gave me really good resonance on this antenna. I didn't need to use any other type of counterpoise. There's another close look. You can see the swivel device there. And that's what I did. I would just swivel it over 90 degrees. It was parallel. And I was able to very easily go in and change the clips and then swivel it back out.
Did anybody see that antenna? Asked you what it was?
Oh, yes, actually. Yes, we got a call from the management, and they said, "Oh, what is this?" And then my husband very easily answered, "Oh, it's a ham radio antenna." I said, "Oh, okay." I guess they were more concerned that I might have been a terrorist or something, but.
Usually it's telling to that before.
And here's a nice view of sundown. Yeah, I might have been fishing off the balcony, right? Okay, I did run an antenna model of this antenna, but I had it like pointing straight out in the model, and it shows the radiation pattern. It's pretty much 180 degrees. The antenna wasn't completely horizontal. I actually had it tilted up a bit. So it probably had more of an omnidirectional pattern in that direction from the side of the building. And there's a close-up of the coil, the taps. I actually counted the number of turns, and I posted this on the internet, this one picture, just so people get an idea. I figured out the number of turns I needed if I used the 6-foot whip, which is one that comes with its stock. I also got the 9.5-foot whip. And of course, with the 9.5-foot width, it's a lot more efficient on 40 meters. And that's it. I think that's the last picture. So.
How do you find Puerto Rico to Europe on 40?
Puerto Rico is excellent for Europe. I mean, Europe was going in every day. Africa as well. The entire eastern seaboard of the United States.
Yes.
And South America. I mean. Being located right in the Caribbean, actually, we did Australia quite well too.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
You come closer to that.
Can I help you carry that out to my car?
Oh, you're going to help him? Okay. Hey, this Caribbean thing, I'm serious about it. If you want to do a trip that doesn't cost a lot of money, to give you an idea, I try to get 2 Europeans to go with me to the Caribbean, because I had 2 Swedish guys come 2 years ago, a year before last, and they were marvelous. They had technology I didn't have, and it was great. And and I got 2 guys from Serbia who are considering it, although their money's a little problem. But the money, if you can get down to St. Lucia, and like this year, it was from the East Coast, like $400 to get down there. And it was only us like $5.50 or so to go from the West Coast down to St. Lucia. And then what we have is at the airport, we have a van that comes, and it picks up all 8 of us, all the gear. Can you imagine all the gear we'd have with 8 guys? And takes us for the long drive with the scenic view of the whole island of St. Lucia up to our villa, which is perched in a 300-foot cliff. It's 4,500 square feet, air-conditioned, has Wi-Fi, and has straight internet. Internet's really great. So you can spot yourself if you want to, or have somebody spot you immediately. Or if you want to sit there and Skype home, you can do that. Now, it's hard to believe, but we have food catered in almost every night. A couple of nights we go down. I mean, this is tough. It's not that rock in the Pacific here, guys. We're talking about in a very nice villa. And I'm going to keep going back until I can no longer do it. It's a blast, yes.
What about licensing?
I license people for them. And I don't do it. What I do is I
Local
say...
license?
Pardon?
St. Lucia license?
St. Lucia license, sure, you have to do that. So you have to be licensed here, and then I collect all of the copies of the passports, a copy of the customs form. You have to show what you're going to bring into the country, and then an application form for the NTRC, which is the national place there. I take all those and they send them to my home in California, no matter if they're in Europe or wherever. I have them send them to my place. I look them over, make sure they're right, because I've done it so many times. Take them and FedEx them down to our host down at the villa. He hand delivers them to Joni, I know her name now, at the office down there. And if there's any problem, she texts me, or she sends me a note, an email right away and says, hey, bud, this guy's passport's expired. You got it, and sure enough, the guy's passport's expired. So you have to have a passport, you have to have a valid license for the state. But it's around 100, including catered food, around $120 a day. Now, if you can beat that on a DXpedition, you know, that is doggone good. So if you're ever going to go one, I'm going to go another 4 or 5 years, but I'm giving you an invitation to look at it at least to see. And I'm not selling it. Buddipole makes nothing on it at all, except we get the publicity of 7 or 8 guys. Right now, we're going to have 15 guys, because a bunch of guys who have gone with us before are going to go to Martinique, and they're going to be there at the same time. We're going to be on St. Martin, and it's adjacent island. So there are going to be 15 guys to work down in Buddies in the Caribbean at the same time. So it's it's really cool, because we don't, we advertise, and I think Chris, actually it's his company, I know, but I love this stuff. We do some advertising in CQ and some in QST, especially with the parks on the air. Who was here who's just done parks recently? Who did parks recently? You have all done parks? Have you? Oh, there he is. Okay, stand up a second. Now stand up a second and say what you've been doing. This is a very good thing, guys. Listen to this. Go ahead.
Okay. You mean the national parks on
Yeah,
here?
national parks in here.
I've done 5 activations so far. Whiskey Town, Wallaben, Lassen. I've been to Wallaben's twice. I went to Tule Lake. In October, we're going Sequoia, Kings Canyon, and Yosemite, and it's just a lot of fun. I've used about 10 antennas so far. I haven't used the Buddipole yet, and it's really a learning experience on the antenna half of it. You come up with some really weird radio feedback problems with some of them. The little side checker was the worst antenna that I had. It's a lot of fun. You get points, credits for your activation. A lot of people looking for you. So far I've ran CW, digital modes, and sideband, and mostly RT3Y and JT65, which I thought would be no good at all in the field. I was really wrong at 132 contacts in one day. Yeah, that's a lot of work in 5 minutes per communications. you really know that you worked your day. It's a lot of fun. Anybody can do it. If you want free activation credits, you can go to the ARRL website and sign up. Otherwise, just upload your log with Logbook of the World. You have to do it through Logbook of the World. And it's really an interesting process, and it's not hard at all. Once you do it the first time, you go, why did they make me go through all that? All I have to do is go here and say where I'm going to be at, not where you want. Any questions?
That's a really good program. I have a little door problem because of the smoke at the ready, and I'm really glad I made it through to this part here. Not like Hillary Clinton, who's allergic to Donald. I just have a throat problem having to do with that smoke. Thank you all. I really appreciate your attention. Jeez, for a big crowd, that's a lot of people. Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Thank you, Bud.